right now we're witnessing a shift in the theatrical landscape, and this is almost kind of an appropriate name for what's going on. So Taylor Swift is in a class of her own right now as Era Tour gives way to Era Movie. Now this article comes from USA Today, but scrolling down into the meat of it, it states Swift's announcement via social media channels Thursday that Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, will come to the big screen October 13th, sent fans scrambling to scoop up $19.89 tickets at AMC theater sites, spawning wait times not dissimilar to Ticketmaster. Now, this quote right here underneath that: the only place where you can replicate the global excitement of Taylor Swift's live concerts is inside a movie theater with immersive state-of-the-art projection and sound alongside a vocal crowd of passionate fans, says Michael O'Leary, President and CEO of the National Association of Theater Owners. Now, if you click over to this other article from AMC, it actually says Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour concert film shatters advanced ticket sales records at AMC theaters. $26 million in ticket revenue sold on Thursday. Certain things like this, like event concerts like this in theaters, aren't an unusual thing, but it is coming at an interesting time because right now theaters have already been suffering from streaming kind of taking away a lot of their thunder, not to mention government forcing theaters to shut down because of COVID also kind of hampered them a bit. And like, I mean, I'm not saying that they haven't recovered fully, but it did definitely change kind of the landscape of the theater going business, because in the past people would just kind of habitually go to a theater and watch anything. And we've been seeing like the last couple of years that audiences aren't just going to come out and watch anything in theaters now. They need to have something special or a reason to go out and see a movie, just besides the fact that it's a movie that they want to see. I mean, you need to make it an event of it, like what we saw with Barbenheimer recently. So studios are, at least they would be wise to kind of take a lesson in that and say like, okay, we're not just going to make every movie a $200 million movie and it requires like $600-700 million in order to be considered a success. Like, I think they're going to see more of a rise of not only like low to mid budget movies, or at least they should be, but I think we're also going to see more of this type of content going on, because as with the strikes currently happening, we're seeing that it's going to damage the theater business, and the theater businesses are either going to go under or they're going to find some other way to pick up the slack. And I think certain concert events like this are kind of the answer, or at least it's going to be a big help to it. And obviously other music artists are probably seeing what's happening with Taylor Swift in this and are probably going to make their own thing too, because naturally you're going to get, once you see success, you're going to try to replicate that. I mean, when a movie does good, we always see either sequels or other similar copycat type movies coming out kind of in the same vein to try to capture that same vibe with it, to varying success. But still, there's going to be, I think, more concerts coming out right now because this is kind of hitting at a unique time. But also we got the potential for foreign content. Now, this article from Axios is a couple years old, but it is still pretty relevant to the current market right now. So it talked about how there has been a trend in more access to foreign content, and I think people are starting to pick up on that now, especially in the West, and they're actually going to be consuming it at a higher rate. So it says in this article, this trend started in mid-2019, so it predates COVID-19, but the strong upward trend has continued into 2020, says Wade Payson, Denny, and Insight analyst at Paraanalytics. In quarter 3 2020, non-US shows accounted for nearly 30% of demand in the US. The data shows that US audiences are discovering content from previously unfamiliar markets like India, Spain, and Turkey. The top 5 international markets in the US by quarter 4 2020 were the UK at 8.3%, Japan 5.7%, Canada 3.2%, Korea 1.9%, and India 1.5% per Paraanalytics. Now, obviously, a lot of these markets like the UK and Canada are pretty similar to a lot of Western markets, and I think a lot of them still have like the same thing with the strikes going on right now. But Japan, Korea, India, I mean, those are completely different markets, and it's a completely different type of content that we're seeing. I mean, like recently, we've also saw huge success on streaming or with Squid Game coming from South Korea. And also Parasite, that won Best Picture a couple of years ago, and that's a Korean film. So that's something that was kind of unheard of up until the recent past that people would actually come out to theaters and or actually really consume foreign content. But I think we're going to see more of a rise in that, as well as independent content. But then there's also the potential for just studios picking up the slack with the strikes going on by just re-releasing old content. Now, of course, this announcement that Disney was going to be releasing re-releasing some of their movies is not unusual, but this is something that not only Disney can do because they have an extensive back catalog, but pretty much other studios can do. It was pretty much said that similar about Warner Brothers recently during their last earnings call, that they have an extensive back catalog. So if the strikes are going to continue on, they have something that they can release or something to release in theaters. But also there's just the simple fact that like in my hometown, for instance, there's a independent theater that it pretty much just, I mean, it shows some new stuff. Like I last saw when I drove by it, I saw in the marquee, it said Asteroid City and The Goonies. So they'll do some like smaller movies that they showed there, but they also just show pretty much for the most part older movies because it's something that people want to actually go out and see in theaters. And every once in a while they'll have newer stuff in there, but for the most part they just survive off of the older content. And I think that's ultimately what the movie theater landscape is going to change to be, because in the past you would get movies, it was either released in theaters, made for TV, or it was straight to video, or just a combination or something like that. And I think what we're going to see is a lot of, since we have streaming in there, I think we're just going to basically see less stuff released just for theater. Theaters are going to pick up the slack by having either supplementing it with foreign content, concert events like the Taylor Swift one, or just older movies. And that's going to be the theatrical landscape. And the new movies that are released in the theater are going to be like those big, exciting ones. And a lot of the more mid-budget ones to low-budget ones are probably going to just be either relegated to streaming or whatever, or just maybe released if the studio really thinks that there's going to be an audience for that and it can make it up. But even then, I'm not sure how it's going to be, but I think it is interesting because I don't think theaters are going to go under per se. It's just, like I said, it's going to change and they're always going to be there. Maybe not as many of them as they are now, but there's going to be a time and a place to actually go to watch movies on a big screen. But I think for the most part, it's going to be just new content for the audience, which is always a good thing. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you click that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.